Okay. One way you can borrow money is with no collateral, right?
Yeah.
If you borrowed money with no collateral, what would you do? Debit cash or credit notes payable, right? About it. That's all you do. Okay. Or you can borrow secured, right? And if you borrow secured, what do?
You have a certain thing put down for the loan.
Well, you might have a down payment, but you'd also put collateral.
Yeah.
You tie up some assets. So you might borrow using your receivables. You might borrow using your inventory. And once you use your assets or your land, building, and equipment for a mortgage, right? Once you use an asset as collateral for debt, you can't use it as collateral for debt again. So it kind of limits your choices now, right? Your options. You have less ability, less liquidity, less ability to borrow money, right? Less flexibility. Okay, so there's no special accounting for that either. It's still just debit cash and credit notes payable, or debit the asset you bought, credit notes payable, mortgages payable, that sort of thing. And credit cash, you made a down payment. But in the no financial statements, you would say that your assets are tied up as collateral, so people know. That's all. It's just not a big deal, and they show you some examples of that. So that's the secured borrowing thing. But then there's also this assignment. If you're recording a loan where you assign your receivables. Now, what does that mean? Now it's beyond collateral. What is it?
If you don't pay the loan, they can collect the receivables.
Yeah, they can take the receivables, which is still what collateral is, right? But as you receive your receivables, you are specifically obligated to give them back money. With a regular loan, they don't have the right to any particular cash. Just if you default on the loan, they can come and get the collateral, right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
But if you assign your receivables, when you collect that receivable, you have to send them money. Two types of assignments I mentioned last time. You can have it be your customer pays you, and then you pay to the people you owe the money, right? You got the liability, the debt. Or what you can do is you can have the receivables go directly to them. Does that make sense? Two ways of doing assignments. Okay? It's just based on whether or not they trust you to collect the money and give it to them. Right? Okay? So this is going to be really simple. What you do, let's say we do a loan for, let's do a $100,000 loan. For some reason, if I wait a while, that goes away. Okay? Let's do a loan for $100,000. And let's assign 150,000 of accounts receivable. Now, why would they typically want us to assign more? That's going to be cash. Why would they want us to assign more than the loan?
So they can make sure for either an allowance capital account.
Yeah, make sure they get paid. So they got a 50,000 cushion there. If 50,000 of your receivables are never get collected, they still get paid. And even if none of your receivables get collected, you still owe the money, of course, right? Okay. So this is going to be simple. Let's record the journal entries for this. What would you do? Let's say January 1st you borrow the money, and it's 1 year. December 31st, you're going to pay it. And let's make the interest be 10% to make that life really easy. What would the journal entries be if I asked you for this?
You get cash of 100,000.
Debit cash. Yeah. You and I can do this. And then when it's paid?
Notes payable, 100,000. Interest expense for 10,000.
It's 10% of 110,000.
And then cash, 110,000.
You guys will be able to do this for me, won't you? We've done this before, but in principles. Okay, now there's another way. We can use an assigned accounts receivable account. If we do it this way, we just put in our notes that we'd assigned accounts receivable. Make sense? Right? But here's what you would do if you want to use an assigned accounts receivable account with exactly the same deal. I would still do the same entry. Debit cash 100. Credit notes payable 100. And then what? receivable. So on my balance sheet, I show them as assigned accounts receivable. Probably preferable to do it this way, right? They're assigned. So I can't use them to borrow money somewhere else, right? Got the idea? Well, by the way, what would I have done in between here during the year when I had payment to my customers? I would have debited cash and credit throughout the year, and credited what? Accounts receivable. So whatever I collected. Everybody agree? And if I collect more than 100, that's just fine. I keep it, right? Everybody good? What would I do here as I collect? It'd be debit cash, but what would I credit as I collect?
The assigned.
Assigned accounts receivable. Be sure and do that. That's all. If they ask you to use an assigned account, so what?
Yeah.
I put it in the assigned account, and then when I collect it, I take it out of the assigned account. So let's say I collected, $110,000 of that. And then I pay off the 110 loan. The first 110 I collect, I'm going to give them 110, right? So let's say I just do that, and there's still 40,000 I have not collected. What would I do at December 31st here? Same entry, right? So this was throughout the year, right? Debiting cash, crediting assigned accounts receivable. Now, at December 31st, what would you do? Get notes payable for 100. Get interest expense.
Oh, okay.
For 10. This is too easy. I started with easy stuff on purpose. Credit cash, 110. And we got a problem. Yeah, I put 150 in here and I only took 110 out. Does it need to be assigned anymore if you paid off the debt? No. So what do?
Credit, assigned, accounts receivable, and debit.
For the 40. And debit what for 40? Accounts receivable. Put it back to regular accounts receivable. They're not signed anymore. You see it? It's just not a big deal, is it? This is easy. This part. Okay. And they show you that in the book, of course. Right? So, all right. Well, take a look over on page 366, 367. What do you do if you are going to what do you want to do if you're going to factor or sell your receipts? Take a look at the bottom of page 367. The customer, the factor is going to give us a loan, right? Okay. Approve our payment, right? So here's the customer buying product from us. They place an order with us. We ship goods to them. You see that at the bottom there? Of course. We're selling stuff. We have a receivable. We're going to request credit from the factor. They're going to approve our credit, and then they're going to advance cash, which what they're going to do is they're going to buy the receivables from us. Okay? They're buying them from us. What's the difference between borrowing money with the receivables being collateral, or assigning them, which is they're still collateral, or selling?
Once you sell them, there's either recourse or...
Well, that's true, that with recourse or not. But when you sell something, what do you think?
Yeah.
A truck is my truck until I sell it, right? I have the use of it, I have the right to it, it's my asset. As soon as I sell it, it's no longer my asset, it's now their asset. And at that point, I'll have a gain or loss on selling it, right? So who has the right to the receivables? If they buy those receivables from me, can they borrow money against them, using the collateral for their loans? Sure. Can we do that any longer? No, they're not ours. You transferred the asset, okay? So it's a transfer the asset. So it's kind of subtle, because really what we're trying to do is we're trying to get money out of the receivables, right? What ways can you get money out of the receivables? Well, you can collect them, right? That's one. But you can't wait to collect them. You can borrow money and use them as collateral, right? Okay, that's fine. And what if people won't give you a good interest rate, or they won't loan to you at all on the receivables, right? Now what? Maybe you could sell your receivables, okay? Because if you sell the receivables to them, they're really buying the credit of your customers. They're not counting on your credit. Does that make sense? Okay, so they're evaluating whether or not your customers are going to pay, not whether or not you're going to pay, if you factor. That's all. Okay? And you're right. There are two ways we could do this, with and without recourse. So going back to the bottom of page 367, we request the credit review. They advance cash to us based on that credit, right? They prove it advance. And then the customer pays them. Now, they will take title to more receivables than they really need. They'll have a reserve, right? What for? Bad debts, right? Not getting paid. Who's going to be responsible for the bad debts? With recourse, we are, right? Without recourse, they are, but it's not quite that simple. To the extent that they withhold a bit, right, they have a reserve, we're responsible for that either way. They don't give us all our money. They hold some of it back. Does that make sense? And then if they don't get paid, we lose. But only if it's without recourse, only to the extent of that, right? Reserve. If it's with recourse, they get the reserve and then they come after us. So this can get really complex doing these things. Okay? It can drive you crazy. But you just have to sort of think your way through it. So let's take a look over on page 368. Okay? Without recourse there's Crest Textiles in the middle of the page there, and commercial factors. So what we've got here is $500,000 of accounts receivable that we are going to sell, okay? And we end up only getting $460,000 out of our $500,000 receivables. How does that happen? We're Crest Textiles there. What happens?
They want money held back so they can.
Yeah, they want a reserve. That's the what? That's the due from factory. Okay? So here, and then what else do they want? They want to make a profit, right? Because they're going to give us that due from factor. They're going to pay it to us if they collect all the receivables. If they don't collect them all, they're never going to pay it to us. Got the idea? They'll give us back the receivables instead. Okay? If they've collected all their money. But also they want basically interest. It's not interest, but they want a profit, right? Why is it not interest? They're not really loaning us money, they're buying the receivables. So they kind of have a gain on the purchase of our receivables. It's kind of weird, isn't it? But they call that factor revenue typically, okay? Factoring revenue. So we're going to have a loss. This author likes to call it interest revenue, but do you think it's interest revenue if you didn't loan anybody any money? I don't like that term very well. I'll accept it if you do interest revenue, but I think it's factor revenue. I think it's revenue from doing your business. You're factoring and you get factoring revenue. They still have expenses, right, running their operation. So it's not really a gain. Okay. All right. Be a gain on a purchase anyway, which would be kind of weird. So it's how they make their revenue. All right. So let's do this deal. So on the Crest factor side, go through where they get the interest, right? So this is the company, right? And this is the factor over here. The factoring company. Okay? So these guys have the receivables they're selling to the factor. Everybody got the idea? So how does this work? And this one is going to be without recourse. Okay? All right. So at the time, let's say it's January 1st, right? At the time we do this, it's $500,000 of receivables, and they are going to charge me what? What were the fees that they have? They have 5% for their reserve, right?
Yeah.
That means they are going to hold back until they get paid their share of the money. $25,000? Everybody agree? And then they also want a fee for 3%, is it? Okay? And they may only be waiting a month, and they're taking a 3% fee. What's the interest rate like? They're taking 3% out up front. What's the interest rate like on this thing? If you think of it as us borrowing the money, kind of, right? I know we're selling it, but if you think of it that way, what does this interest rate turn into?
It'd be like 36.
This is horrendous. It's even more than 36. It's 36% if they were giving us the whole 500,000, right? Because they're going to charge us $15,000 for 1 month, but they're not loaning us 500,000. They're not giving us 500,000. How much are they giving us in this case? 460. So take $15,000 just to get an idea how bad this gets. These are for people who do not have good credit, right? So you've got $500,000. Whoops, $460,000 that you got, right? How much they're going to give us? Because they're going to take 500 less the 15 less the 25. Make sense? They got $460,000. And how much are they charging us? 15,000. And that's if it only takes them 30 days to collect it. Of course, it could take them longer, right? They don't, they don't necessarily get paid in 30 days. Well, let's say it did take 30 days. This would be for 1 month. What's that interest rate? 15,000 divided by 460. What do you get?
3.26.
3.26% per month. Take it times 12 months. What do you got?
39.13.
Yeah, this is real. Now, it might take them 60 days to collect, and then obviously they don't make that much interest, right? That's risk they're taking, okay? Because it could be slower, and of course, you're not in good credit risk, so maybe your customers aren't so strong too. But it might be just, not having much cash, right? You have lots of receivables, so you just do this. They make a lot of money off it, right? Basically. What happens to companies that do a lot of factoring is they tend to give all their profits to factoring. They do all the work, the factor gets all the profit, right? They're giving them money to run their business with. Everybody got the idea on that?
Specific businesses just running on factoring?
Yeah, textile industry does it a lot. It's businesses that are undercapitalized typically. They don't have enough resources of their own. Okay. So it's a way to stay in business. And if you're failing, you could do this while you try to recover, right? So the way you can stay afloat, right? Okay, so what would the entry be then? What happens to Crest Company? I think they get 500 less 15 less 25. So this is simple once you see it. Debit cash, 460,000. I think the factor company's going to give them the cash. They bought the receivables. Credit cash, 460,000. That makes sense, guys? It's simple. Okay, I think you sold your receivables. So when you credit accounts receivable, what receivables did you sell? All 500,000 in this case. That's not a big deal. Okay? And then what happens to the factor? They, of course, get the account receivable. They bought them. So you're transferring them. This is a sale of receivables. It's a sale. Factoring is a sale. Got it? Purchase and a sale. All right, what else do you have? You have the 15,000. What is that to you? I don't have interest expense. I didn't borrow money. What? I sold my receivables at a loss, and it'll always be a loss. Loss on sale of accounts receivable, or loss on factoring, would be called that, right? Okay? Factoring loss.
I don't think you would call it, but would some companies call that expense if they did it so often?
No, because you're selling it. It's still a loss. It's still a loss. Yeah. So the normal course of business, but it's a loss. Okay. I'm lying a little bit. Some companies we call it interest expense, but I'm not borrowing. Right. What would they call it on the other side? The authors call it interest revenue, but I don't think they loaned any money, so what would be a better name for it? Probably factoring revenue. That would make more sense to me. That's revenue. Okay, 15,000. Okay, and then there's the 25,000 they held back. And this is going to seem really strange. It's 25,000 of what? Due to the company, due to Crest Company. Okay, due to the company. I owe them 25,000. What's going to happen is if I collect more than 475,000, the 460 I gave them plus the 15 that's supposed to be my revenue, if I collect more, I'm going to send them the money. Everybody got it? That's simple. Okay, and what's going to happen to Crest Company? Due from. So it's like an account receivable. Due from, the factor is a receivable. Due to Crest Company is a payable. Got it? Okay, so let's do 3 different scenarios. The author doesn't show you this, but I kind of wish they would. So we'll do it. scenario A, customer pays, customers pay. $500,000. This is the best scenario you're going to get, right? So on both sides, tell me what A would look like. Customers pay $500,000. What would Factor do? What would Crest do? Who's got the receivables? Who owns them? Factor. Who's going to get the cash? Factor. Debit cash on the Factor's books. Don't you think? And this would come in as payments throughout the period, right? All $500,000 coming. By the way, there could be sales discounts, sales returns and allowances, and you'd have in your agreement who's responsible for those. Might come out of the due to, due from. Makes sense? Usually they go back into the company, right? The press company in this case. And credit what? Accounts receivable? What would you put on the books of the press company? Nothing. It's not their receivable. But then what happens after they collect it?
They get the 25.
Mm-hmm. They're going to pay them the 25, aren't they, guys? Right? So won't they credit cash 25,000?
So would Crest Company try to get that due to be as close to their bad debt, or would it matter?
No, Crest just wants it to be real small. Because then they get used to the money, and if they have to pay them later, if it's with recourse, they have to pay it later. But we're doing without recourse, so they don't have to pay them later. They still want it real small, right? Because they're exposed to the first 25. It doesn't get paid. What if they get it down to 15? They're only exposed for 15. Got it? So the Factor wants it higher, they want it lower. Company wants it lower. Everything's negotiable. But so is the fee, right? Fee's negotiable too. If they take more risk, they want a higher fee, right? If they take less risk, a smaller fee. Just like interest. So what would they debit for 25,000? Sure, the due to Crest. Does that make sense? I like to use the same example as the author does in the book. It's kind of hard to follow, I think, when you read it. It's kind of, did you find that?
Yeah.
Kind of, what are they talking about? Yeah. So that's it. So what would happen over on Crest Company, of course? They get the cash. So this is the simple situation, right? And credit what? Well, they don't have the due from anymore. So you just treat those as receivable payable, can't you? That's what they are. Don't call it that. Like these terms for some reason. Okay, are we good? I don't know why I have $750 on there. Okay? Good? Let's do a different scenario. Let's say this is without recourse. Let's say they pay, customers pay $490,000. Try that. Same concept. Remember, this is without recourse. They cannot come back after. Here's that. Everybody got some answers there? Okay, what would Factor Company do?
They would receive the cash from their accounts receivable.
$490. accounts receivable. You could do the, well, you probably wouldn't do the 500, you'd probably do the 490 first. But you're gonna have to get rid of the other 10 though, aren't you? So I agree with that, you could put it together in one entry if you want, okay? They're gonna have to credit accounts receivable with the other 10, aren't they? What else they need to do? They need to get the due to. And they'll probably get rid of the whole thing. But they already got their 475 they wanted, right? See the 475 here, you guys? And that's what they want. They got 490, they're fine. Due to Crest is going to be how much? 25. But then what? Well, they don't have a loss because they got their whole 475. So what's the 15 going to be? Isn't that gain? What happened? They collected 490. Their share is 475. There's 15 extra. What they do with the extra here when they got 500? They sent it over to Crest, didn't they? Only this time they only got 490. Who eats the 10 shortfall? Crest does. Crest doesn't get 25. Crest gets 15. That's it. It's cash. They're going to send the cash over to Crest. To the extent they got more than 475, they're going to send it to them. Right, guys?
That's without recourse?
That's without recourse. Even without recourse, they've got that 25,000 cushion. Crest is still exposed to that 25,000. Got it? So now what would happen over on Crest books?
They get the accounts receivable.
Oh, that's right. They get back the account receivable, right? That was not collected. How much was that?
10,000.
They collected 490, so it's 10. What else do they get?
Cash of 15.
Cash of 15. Yeah. So what's the 25? What don't they have anymore?
Due.
Yeah, the due from factors gone. Got it? Sound good, everybody? Pretty simple? Kinda simple? Okay, getting a little more complex. All right, let me give you another one. Let's say it's, and this would look exactly the same up to 475 collected, am I right?
Yeah.
It'd be exactly the same. You just send them more receivables. If it was 475, I'd have debit cash 475, credit accounts receivable 475, debit due to Crest 25, and credit accounts receivable 25, and I'd send them no cash. Right, guys? And then on the other side, I would debit accounts receivable 25 and credit due from factor 25, and I'd never get any cash from it, right? And then I try to collect the receivables. Guess what? They're not any good. Where are they going to end up? Yeah, they're going to be bad debts. But probably not bad debts, because that would be the direct write-up. What account would you go to?
Allowance.
Allowance, yeah, it'd probably go to allowance for doubtful accounts. You put in receivables first, try to collect them, then later you probably write them off. Which is debit allowance for doubtful accounts, credit accounts receivable, right, guys? So when you get all that stuff down, you're getting there, aren't you? Pound on you, pound on you, we pound on you in principles, you keep hitting your head against the wall for this stuff, and pretty soon it just becomes part of who you are, it doesn't. I get it, I see how this works, okay? All right, well, here we go. Let's do one more. This time, I don't, yeah, you want 450? I'll take 450, I don't care. Customer pays 450. All the customers together. What's that one going to be? Okay? What happens first? Who gets the cash? What do they credit? Sure. And they're at a point where they're going to give up. The term of the agreement has expired, right? And they didn't collect the money.
So
They're not happy.
they're going to come after us for the extra 25.
This is without recourse.
Oh.
Oh, this is the only situation where with recourse would matter, because then they can come and get us. Without recourse, or with recourse, doesn't matter if they collected enough. You got it? If they get their 475, then why would they come after us? They're not gonna. Got it?
We wouldn't get the 25 back, will we?
No, we're not gonna get a penny. We're not gonna get a penny. We're not getting the receivables either. they're gonna keep them and see if they ever collect them, right? So we're Crest, we're getting nothing. So tell me what you wanna do.
That's perfect.
No, they're leave it sitting on their books forever. Do from forever. It's the end of the contract. They don't have any do to them anymore.
Oh, so just remove.
The expensive.
So what would they do? They want to get rid of the rest of the receivables. Maybe, or maybe they'll just hang on to them. What have they not collected? All 50. I guess they could hang on to them. Oh, they don't need all 50. What do they need?
The 25.
Just 25. Yeah, but if they think they're never going to see it, let's do it that way. They're never going to see it. They're giving it. Credit accounts receivable, debit what? Well, it could be they might have set up a reserve. They could have the allowance for doubtful accounts, but not for the whole thing. Only 25. They're only exposed, right? Anything below 475. Because what do they have? They have due to Crest of 25, don't they?
Yeah.
So they can get rid of that, and that's it. Right? Due to Crest would be 25, and if they were going to write it off, they'd write it off to allowance for doubtful accounts. Okay? Absolutely. Got it? Or it could be a loss. Call it a loss if they want. Everybody good? Okay. That, without recourse, you can't go get it, right? Okay? Remember, it's without recourse. Okay. What would happen then if if this is the situation on the other side? What would Crest do? They get nothing. They don't get the receivable. What do they have? Get rid of the due from the factor, right? You're going to get rid of that no matter what. Okay, that'll help you doing these things. How much? 25. And what do they have? Uh-oh. Their loss wasn't 15. Their loss was 40.
So this is a
25 more.
sale.
Loss on sale. So to the extent that they do not get back their money, right? Or the receivable, either one, they're going to have loss. Okay? Everybody got it? All right, let's do exactly the same thing then with recourse.
So that would be the only point when it changes.
Pretty much. It's going to change a little bit, at least on the company's books. Okay. So this is Crest now, and this is Spectre, whoever they are. Finance companies, what they are, right? So if we look at one with recourse, they show it at the bottom of page 369. Okay. What's going on here? It looks exactly the same, except they recorded something else. They recorded what? Recourse liability, and they recorded a larger loss. So to the extent that you have a recourse liability, you have a larger loss. Look at commercial factors, though. Nothing changed. Why? They don't know how much the recourse liability should be. We don't tell them, right? We think, well, you know, they gave us $460,000 for these receivables. They're supposed to have $15,000 of revenue on it, so they're expecting to collect $475,000. But my estimate is that they're going to collect $6,000 less than that. I'm going to be on the hook for the 25 due from factor, right? Plus 6,000 recourse liability. My loss is, or I'm sorry, I'm going to be on hook for the 15,000 loss, plus another 6,000 on a recourse liability. I'm really going to lose 21. So you guess how much your recourse liability should be, right? That's your estimate. You can share that with them. If you shared it with them, what they do is they give you less cash, right? They make the reserve bigger. Got the idea? They do to customers. So this is negotiated, and you know, so you make your best estimate. So let's record that. It's really pretty simple. At the date that they issued it, it's going to be exactly the same entry, right? The same one we just had up here, right? This entry, we are going to record, okay, at whatever date it is, okay? So it's going to be exactly the same with what exception?
The loss.
The loss is going to be bigger because I'm going to have a recourse liability. On the other side, on the factor side, everything's exactly the same, okay? Assuming the percentages are the same, of course. Okay? So it's still cash at 460 on both sides. It's still due from factor 25, due to company 25. Okay, we're going to have a loss, but our loss is no longer 15, right? And here what they're going to have is, oh wait a minute, due to is a liability, can't be doing. Sorry. Well, that was credit, I'm sorry. That's right. Due to credit. What was it, 25? These guys are selling the accounts receivable. How much are those? 500 milliliters now. Here, they're getting the account receivable. 500. Okay, good. And then what else is there? There's 15,000. Yeah, so 460 less 25 less 15. What did they call that? Factor revenue. The author calls it interest revenue. I like factoring revenue better, don't you? Okay, there's no time going by. There's no money loan. Huh. All right. But what else do we need to do? Nothing here. But over here, what do we need? Yeah, I'm going to have a recourse liability. This is how much I think they're not going to pay me. So they owe me 25, but I think I'm never going to see 6 of it. Got the idea? So it's $6,000. What do I have to make my journal entry balance? The 15 loss I had, which was equal to their factoring revenue, right? Plus an additional 6 I think I'm never going to collect. Yeah. So I'm conservative, so I'm going to get that loss recorded at the time I did the sale. Got it? Instead of waiting till later. Okay? So let's do this again. How much was A? 500,000. That's the cash coming in, okay? On both sides. How much was B?
490.
490. And how much was C? Whoops. C is 450,000. Let's do those 3. What do you want to do? Kind of the same sort of deal, right? Who's collecting the cash?
People.
Factor, of course. Cash 500. And? Accounts receivable 500. Sweet. And it gets a little worse. Then what would they do?
Did get the due for paying the due to Crest.
Yeah.
So
Due to Crest goes away. How much? 25. And you pay the cash out. Right? That's it, isn't it? What would Crest do?
They would get rid of their liability. And
Get rid of the due from, right? Their asset. Cash 25. And get rid of the due from. Right? The due from goes away. They're paying me. Right? And we're done, aren't we? Is that exactly the same as the other one was? Yeah. But I'm not done. Something's wrong.
so the recourse liability.
Oh, I have a recourse liability. You have to get rid of it. Ah. So I want to debit the recourse liability, don't you guys? So it did get a little tougher, didn't it? How much you want to debit the recourse liability for to get rid of it? 6,000. What happened? I did not lose 21. I only lost 15. So I am going to credit the loss, or if it's in a different year, I'll credit recovery of loss. Now, loss recovery or loss, okay? If it's in the same year, go to the loss and reduce the loss. Does that make sense? 21 less 6 would make it 15, wouldn't it? See what's going on? I didn't think it was going to collect it all. I thought they were going to be short by 6. Got the idea? So I'm going to have to get rid of the recourse liability and either have a recovery of loss or have additional loss. You could have more loss, right?
Just kind of like reversing it, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And remember, this is with recourse, right? So if they collect less than the 594, or I'm sorry, 494, well, 6 less than this. Oh, I'm sorry, 475. Okay, yeah. It's 500 less the 15, 485 less 6, right? So 479. Yeah, if they collect less than that, I'm going to have loss, more loss. So this is with recourse, and we're doing that. So it kind of plays head games with you a little bit.
Could you show the 475 then? Like if they collected 475 for B, or like one of these?
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do this. Let's do 490 and then we'll do 475.
Okay.
Okay, if it came up exact. Yeah. Well, we can do 475 first. I don't care.
I think 490 would be pretty much the same.
Yeah, it is pretty much the same, but not exactly. Not exactly. They're all a little different. So you wanted to do 475?
Yes.
Okay, so assuming your customer pays you 475, you would debit cash. How much? 475. You would credit accounts receivable. 475. You have collected your 460 you gave them plus your 15 profit, right? Is a factor. So what would you do at this point?
You,
Credit the rest of the receivables.
Credit the rest of the account receivables. 25,000. And debit what?
Due allowance.
Remember, I had that 25,000 due to customer. I still got to get rid of. Due to, what would they call it, Crest Company? Oh. I'm not getting any cash. I didn't collect any more than my 475. I was entitled to. I'm giving them nothing. What would they do?
they would get rid of their due from.
Yeah, due from goes away. Due from factor goes away. That was 25, wasn't it? And I guess they get the accounts receivable back, huh? Right? Because they collected all they were going to collect. They're done. They don't care. They probably give them back to us. We may end up with them in allowance for doubtful accounts anyway. We're not done yet.
When does your liability go away?
Yeah, you got your recourse liability still, right? How much? 6,000. All that happened was you got receivables instead of cash, you guys. But what else has to go away? You got to get rid of the recourse liability, which means I still have a loss recovery. Now, you might not do a loss recovery here. Why? Because you might think you don't really have a recovery. You really think your accounts receivable are not of any value, right? So you could merge those two, and you could increase your loss by 19, I suppose, right? Make sense? You could debit loss for 19 or bad debts, right? Effectively for 19. So there's a variety of ways you can handle this. Okay? Any idea? Got around this a bit. And then what did we do? 490? Let's try 490. See how that one works. It's a little more complex with recourse. What would you do if you collected 490? Cash 490 coming in here, right? Accounts receivable 490 coming out. Of course. That's in the factors books. Then what would happen? They're going to get rid of the due to Crest for sure. They're not going to give them anything.
When they give them
They're not gonna give them that, they're gonna give them less, aren't they? How much are they gonna give them?
Yeah, 15.
Okay, so we wanna credit accounts receivable for how much? 10 more? And cash for how much? 15. And they get their 15, don't they? Right? All right, over on the Crest Company's books and the company's books, they get the cash at 15, don't they?
They get the receivable.
That'll just make your head spin after a while. And then what else do they get?
They get the receivable.
I guess they could get the account receivable of 10, which may be more loss later, I guess. And then what'll they do?
Get rid of the liability.
Due from factor? That sounds familiar. That's exactly what we did before, except there's more again. What do we have left?
The
Liability. So you have to get rid of the recourse liability for 6, and you collected more than you expected, obviously. So what is it?
You would
Loss recovery, probably. And it's the same decision we made in B. Do we think, that'd be 6,000? Do we think we're really going to collect those receivables? If they're bad, what you might do is what? Have another 4,000 loss, right? You do that, okay?
Wait, have
See that right?
4,000?
Another,
10,000 loss?
we're getting rid of this 6. I guess we lost at 10,000. Or it could be receivable of 4 and not have a loss recovery. Got to disappear. Debit the recourse and put 4 here and not do that one, right? Not do the loss recovery. All right, let's do one more. We'll get out of here. What was the last one I said? 450? Let's try 450. How's this one going to work? Debit cash for 450.
Accounts receivable.
Credit accounts receivable for 450. Due to Crest. How much? Still 25. Lots of repetition here, huh? Accounts receivable, 50. Debit 25 to what?
Like accounts receivable against them?
Maybe allowance for doubtful accounts. No, we had the receivables we're giving up. Allowance for doubtful accounts, maybe if we allowed for it, or a loss, right?
Oh,
Because this is without recourse. I do not have a claim against them for it, right? So to the extent I don't collect, I am going to have more loss, right? If you debit the allowance, what's going to happen? Your bad debt expense is more next time. So effectively, this is a loss. And if you wanted, you could just go to a loss on factor, right? Okay, that makes sense? It didn't work out, okay? What would happen on the other side? All they have left is they have their due from factor, right?
yeah.
Whoops. They want to credit due from factor, I'm sorry.
Debit accounts receivable.
And how much is that, 25?
Yeah.
Okay, and then when they want to debit, they're not going to get any cash. They don't get the receivables back. They're not going to give them to you.
Oh.
Ah, we want to get rid of our recourse liability, though, don't we? Because we don't owe them anymore, right? It's gone. But what do we have? I've got another 19,000 of what?
Wait, isn't this with recourse?
Yeah, this is with recourse. They're wrong, sorry. This is with recourse. Not allowance for doubtful accounts or loss. What is it?
It's a...
I'm going to go get them, right? So what's that going to be? Let's go screw something up. It's 25, 50 receivable.
They're going to come after us for that 25.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what
It's
account they're calling it.
due from, using myself, keep thinking, Keith, due from Crest. So the due to goes away and it becomes a due from, right? 25. And this is not due from factor.
Would we not just increase our recourse liability by 19?
No, we're gonna get rid of the recourse liability. Effectively you would, but you're gonna call it a due to, okay? So then it's a due to, still doing something wrong. Need a credit, don't I? Due to factor. I owed them 25, they took that off. So my loss goes up by, my loss was 6. No, I don't have a loss, I'm writing it off. They have the loss. This would, oh, this is with recourse.
Yes.
So I do have more loss, that's what's discussing here. So loss on factoring goes up to what? Another 44,000. I think that's right, I think I got it. So you just get nailed. With recourse, whatever they don't get is your baby, right? I think I did that right. You get rid of the due to, due from. They were expecting 475 and you didn't collect it. Yeah, I think I did that right. If you look at the notes and that looks wrong, we'll think about it next time. Okay? Yeah, I told you these get really hairy. Yeah, well, it's not, and we're trying to make it just make sense, right? It makes sense. And it works until they get real complex. So I won't give you all that at one time on the quiz. I'll give you little pieces of it. Okay? This is good for you, though you can tell it's tough. This is good for you to sort of think through what's happening, what the transaction is.